So, hello and welcome again to my channel. This session is all about Bernoulli's equation of differential equation. So, let's start. Bernoulli's equation is somehow alike with linear equation. There is just a difference in their equation and you will see kung ano yung magiging difference nila dito sa magiging discussion natin. So, for example, you were given a general equation of m of xy dx plus the n of xy dy equated to 0. So you have two options then, like the linear equation. First option is, let's say you have the standard form of dy over dx plus the p of x multiplied to y equated to the q of x multiplied to the y of n. Now, kung linear equation ng usapan, ito yung equation natin. But, kung Bernoulli's equation yung usapan, you have the y raised to n nakamultiply kay q of x. So, yun yung difference between the linear equation and the Bernoulli's equation. Ulitin ko po, kapag linear yung equation, wala siyang y raised to n kay q of x. Pero kapag Bernoulli's equation, you have the y raised to n na nakamultiply kay q of x. Now, ano yung magiging epekto niya dun sa solution natin? Sa integrating factor, gagamitin natin yung y raised to n or the exponent of the y na nakamultiply kay q dun sa equation na 1 minus n. So you need to get the 1 minus n. So our integrating factor is e raised to the integral of 1 minus n multiplied to your p of x, then dx. So after getting your integrating factor, you need to follow the formula for the solution of the Bernoulli's equation. So you need y kasi naka-dy over dx tayo. Then the computed 1 minus n, then multiply to the integrating factor equated to the integral of the 1 minus n, then the q of x, then multiply to the computed integrating factor multiplied to dx plus c. Now, katulad ng linear equation, you do also have the option 2. Baliktad naman ngayon c dy over dx. So, pwede siya maging dx over dy. So in that case, if you have dx over dy, you must have p of y multiplied to x equated to q of y multiplied to x raised to n. So our integrating factor there is e raised to integral of 1 minus n multiplied to the p of y dy. Then our solution is x, since naka dx over dy tayo, raised to 1 minus n multiplied to integrating factor equated to the integral of 1 minus n, then the q of y, then the integrating factor dy plus c. So that's it. So the only difference between the linear equation and the Bernoulli's equation is the y raised to n in terms of dy over dx, or the x raised to n in terms of dx over dy. Kasi ginagamit yung n dun sa 1 minus n sa pagkuha ng integrating factor, and then ginagamit din siya dun sa solution of the Bernoulli's equation. So let's go to the examples. Example number 1 is you need to obtain the general solution of the equation 3x y prime plus y plus x squared y raised to 4 equated to 0. So in this case, we need to divide the whole equation by 3x. So you will now have y prime is said to be dy over dx. So pag dinivide natin to dito, ang matitira lang is y prime, which is dy over dx. Tapos y over 3x plus x squared y raised to 4 over 3x then equated to 0. So pag sinimplify natin in the standard form of the Bernoulli's equation, you will now have dy over dx, then the 1 over 3x multiplied to your multiplier y, since naka dy over dx tayo, equated to negative x over 3, then the y raised to n. So in this case, our p of x is 1 over 3x, then our q of x is negative x over 3, then the value of our n is 4, then you need to get the 1 minus n, which is negative 3. So we are going to compute for the integrating factor. Now our integrating factor is e raised to the integral of negative 3, which is 1 minus n, multiplied to the p of x, which is 1 over 3x dx. So kapag sinimplify natin to, we will now have e raised to negative of the integral of dx over x. So kapag in-evaluate natin yon, you will now have e raised to negative ln of x. So now, since negative 1 can be an exponent of x, so you will have e raised to ln of x raised to negative 1, then makakancel si e raised to ln. You will now have x raised to negative 1, or simply your integrating factor is 1 over x. So you need to follow the formula for the solution of the Bernoulli's equation. So the solution is, since naka dy over dx tayo, you will now have y raised to 1 minus n, which is negative 3. Then the integrating factor, which is 1 over x, equated to the integral of 1 minus n, which is negative 3 ulit. Tapos your q of x, which is negative x over 3. Then your integrating factor, which is 1 over x, multiplied to dx plus c. Now you will integrate this part para makuha natin yung sagot. So in this case, since the exponent of y is negative, so pwede nating ibaba cy cubed. So this will be 1 over x multiplied to y cubed, equated to cancel si 3, cancel si x, negative to negative is positive. So ang matitira na lang is dx. So this will be integral of dx plus c. Well, in that case, you will now have 1 over xy cubed equated to x plus c. Now, simplifying the equation by multiplying it sa xy cubed, you will now have 1 equated to x plus c multiplied to xy cubed. So in that case, your final answer for this example is 1 equals the quantity of x plus c multiplied to xy cubed. Next example, you will have to obtain again the general solution of the given equation, which is 4y dx plus 3 quantity of 2x minus 1 multiplied to the quantity of dy plus y to the fourth dx equated to 0. So simplifying the equation in standard form of the Bernoulli's equation, expand natin yung equation. You will now have 4y dx plus 6x dy plus 6xy raised to 4 dx minus 3 dy minus 3y to the fourth dx equals 0. So in that case, the dy part, which is 6x and 3, you will now have 3 multiplied to the quantity of 2x minus 1 dy. Then this one is 4y dx. Then this part and this part, since common si 3y to the fourth multiplied to 2x minus 1 dy, minus 1 dx equated to 0. So in that case, you will now have dy over dx plus 4y all over 3 multiplied to 2x minus 1 plus y to the fourth equated to 0. Bakit naging ganon? Dinivide po natin yung whole equation by 3, 2x minus 1 para mawala yung kasama ni dy. So in that case, para maging standard form ng Bernoulli's equation, yung equation natin, you will now have dy over dx plus 4 over 3 of 2x minus 1 multiplied to y equated to negative y raised to 4. So in that case, our p of x is 4 all over 3 of 2x minus 1. Then our q of x is negative 1. Then our n is 4. 1 minus n is negative 3. Now we need to compute for the integrating factor. Now to compute for the integrating factor, you will now have e raised to the integral of your 1 minus n, which is negative 3. Then your p of x, which is 4 all over 3 of 2x minus 1 multiplied to dx. So in that case, makakancel po natin si 3. Tapos pwede nating ilabas si 4. You will now have e raised to negative 4 integral of dx all over 2x minus 1. So we need to let u as 2x minus 1. Then our du is 2 dx. So you need to insert 2 inside, then balance by 1/2 outside. So you will now have e raised to negative 2 ln of 2x minus 1. So in that case, pwede natin gawing exponent ni 2x minus 1 si negative 2. You will now have e raised to ln of 2x minus 1 raised to negative 2. Then makakancel natin si e raised to ln. Ang matitira na lang is 2x minus 1 raised to negative 2. Or our integrating factor is 1 all over 2x minus 1 squared. So after getting the integrating factor, so we need to get or to follow the solution of the Bernoulli's equation. So we need q of x, 1 minus n, and the integrating factor. So in that case, since naka-dy over dx ulit tayo kanina, you need y, then raised to 1 minus n, which is negative 3. Then our integrating factor of 1 all over 2x minus 1 squared equated to the integral of your 1 minus n, which is negative 3. Then your q of x, which is negative 1. Then your integrating factor again. Then multiply to dx plus c. So simplifying the equation, since negative yung exponent ni y, pwede nating ibaba. You will now have 1 all over y cubed multiplied to 2x minus 1 squared. Then, negative to negative is positive. Pwede nating ilabas si 3. Then, itataas natin ngayon si 2x minus 1, wherein yung exponent niya magiging negative 2. Then, multiply to dx plus c. Then you will let u as 2x minus 1. Then your du is 2 dx. So in that case, you need 2 inside. So insert 2, then balance by 1/2. Then you may use power formula. That's u raised to n du. So we'll now have 3 halves. Then u raised to n plus 1 over n plus 1. So negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1 over negative 1. So you will now have an equation of 1 all over y cubed, then 2x minus 1 squared equated to negative of 3 halves, then 1 over 2x minus 1 since your exponent here is negative 1. So simplifying the whole equation by multiplying it sa y cubed all over y cubed multiplied to 2x minus 1 squared, you will now have this will be multiplied to 2 y cubed multiplied to 2x minus 1 squared. So para makancel din natin yung 2 dito sa baba. So in that case, para mawala din tong 2 sa baba, you will now have 2y cubed, then 2x minus 1 squared. So pag minultiply natin yan dito, makakancel to. Matitira si 2 equated to negative 3. Then y cubed, makakancel yung isang 2x minus 1 plus 2cy cubed, then multiply to 2x minus 1 squared. Sorry for that. Ulitin po natin. Our multiplier here is 2y cubed multiplied to 2x minus 1 squared. So for the final answer of this equation, you will now have 2 equated to negative 3y cubed of 2x minus 1 plus, you will notice that nawala si 2 since that is constant multiplied to arbitrary constant, so that can be simplified into c. Pero hindi mawawala yung iba niyang kasama since that is variable. So bawal mawala yung variable. Ang pwede lang mawala na multiply natin kay arbitrary constant is just another constant. So in that case, you will have cy cubed of 2x minus 1 squared. So next example, example number 3, you have to obtain the general solution of the y prime equated to y minus xy cubed e raised to negative 2x. So kailangan naka-standard form. Well, in this case, y prime is dy over dx, tapos ililipat lang natin si y sa kabila, which can be negative y, then equated sa natira, which is negative x e raised to negative 2xy cubed. So in that case, your p of x is negative 1. Our q of x is negative x e raised to negative 2x. Our n is 3. Our 1 minus n is negative 2. Now, solving for the integrating factor, you will now have e raised to negative 2 multiplied to negative 1 dx. So you will now have e raised to 2 integral of dx. You will have e raised to 2x as your integrating factor. So using your solution, you will now have y raised to negative 2 multiplied to e raised to 2x equated to negative 2 again, then multiplied to your q of x, which is negative x e raised to negative 2x, multiplied to e raised to 2x, which is your integrating factor, multiplied to dx plus c. So you will now have y raised to negative 2, e raised to 2x equated to negative is positive, so that will be 2. Pwede nating ilabas since constant yon. So you will now have e raised to negative 2x multiplied to e raised to 2x. So negative 2x plus 2x is 0. So e raised to 0 is 1. So ang matitira na lang sa pinakaloob nung integral natin is just x dx plus c. So ibababa natin si y raised to negative 2. This can be e raised to 2x all over y squared equated to the integral of x dx is x squared over 2 multiplied to 2 plus c. So this will be multiplied to y squared. So no need to multiply it sa 2 kasi makakancel naman si 2 dun sa labas. So you will now have an equation of e raised to 2x equated to x squared plus c multiplied to y squared. So for the final answer of example number 3, you will now have e raised to 2x equated to y squared multiplied to x squared plus c. Now example number 4, we need to obtain the particular solution of the given equation of quantity y raised to 4 minus 2xy dx plus 3x squared dy equated to 0 when the value of x is 2 and the value of y is 1. So we need to follow the standard form of the Bernoulli's equation. So you need to divide the whole equation by 3x squared dx. So in that case, you will now have y raised to 4 minus 2xy all over 3x squared plus dy over dx. So ayusin lang natin, you will now have dy over dx plus y raised to 4 all over 3x squared minus 2xy all over 3x squared equated to 0. So para mas malinaw, you will now have dy over dx, tapos this one is 2 all over 3x multiplied to the multiplier y equals, ililipat natin doon sa kabila, you will now have negative 1 over 3x squared, then the y raised to 4, which is y raised to n. So our p of x is 2 over 3x, which is negative. Then our q of x is negative 1 over 3x squared. Then our n is 4. Our 1 minus n is negative 3. Now solving for the integrating factor, you will now have e raised to the integral of negative 3, which is 1 minus n, then your negative 2 over 3x, which is your p of x multiplied to dx. Then you will now have to cancel 3, then the negative is positive, so ang matitira is 2. Then the integral of dx over x, you will now have e raised to 2 ln of x, then your 2 can be an exponent of your x. So you will now have e raised to ln of x squared. So your integrating factor is x squared. Now solving for the solution of the Bernoulli's equation, you will now have the q of x, which is negative 1 all over 3x squared, your 1 minus n, which is negative 3, and the computed integrating factor, which is x squared. Now you need to follow the formula. You will now have y raised to 1 minus n, integrating factor, equated to 1 minus n, then the q of x, then the integrating factor multiplied to dx plus c. So you will now have x squared, then pag binabato, you will now have over y cubed. So simplifying this equation, cancel si 3, negative to negative is positive. Cancel yung x squared, matitira na lang sa atin ay dx. So plus c. Well, in that case, you will now have x squared over y cubed equated to x plus c. Then simplifying the equation by multiplying it sa y cubed. You will now have x squared plus y cubed multiplied to x plus c. Now that is your general solution, but our target is to find the particular solution of the said example. So the value of x and y is x is 2, y is 1, then substituting yung values ni x and y dun sa general solution, you will now have to get the value of c as 2. Ngayon, gagamitin natin yung c dun sa general solution. You will now have x squared equals y cubed of the x plus 2. This is now your particular solution, so the final answer is x squared equals y cubed of x plus 2. The final example of this session, we have example number 5. We need to obtain the particular solution of 2y dx plus x multiplied to x squared ln of y minus 1 multiplied to dy equated to 0 when the value of x is 1 and the value of y is 1. So you need to divide the whole equation by 2y dy, so which can be in the form of dx over dy plus x multiplied to x squared ln y minus 1 all over 2y equated to 0. So in this case, you will now have dx over dy plus x cubed of ln y all over 2y minus x over 2y. So dx, then the multiplier x, then the x raised to n. So in this case, you will now have dx over dy minus the 1 over 2y multiplied to x equated to negative ln of y all over 2y, then the x cubed. So we will have our p of y equated to negative of 1 over 2y. Then our q of y is negative ln of y all over 2y. Then our n is 3. Then our 1 minus n is negative 2. Now if you want to try the dy over dx, you may solve it until you prove that you need to do dx over dy instead of dy over dx. Basta dapat po, bago kayo gumawa ng solution for the Bernoulli's equation, kailangan naka-standard form ni Bernoulli's equation. Hindi po palaging naka dy over dx. So this example or our last example is in terms of dx over dy. Just like the linear equation, you need to follow the standard form. So before identifying your P of y, Q of y, and so on, kailangan po palaging naka-standard form. Going back to our discussion, solving for the integrating factor, you have e raised to the integral of -2 multiplied to -1 all over 2y. Then this is dy. My mistake again. This is dy instead of dx. So you will now have cancelled 2. Then negative to negative is positive. Again, this is dy. So you will have dy over y. So you will have e raised to ln of y. So your integrating factor is y. So in that case, our solution is, since naka dx over dy tayo, that is x, then your 1 minus n is -2 multiplied to your integrating factor, which is y, then equated to integral of -2, which is 1 minus n, then your q of y, which is negative ln of y all over 2y multiplied to y dy plus c. Simplifying that, you will have y over x squared equals ln of y dy. Since cancel si 2, negative to negative is positive, cancel si y. So matitira na lang is ln of y multiplied to dy. So in that case, we need to use by parts or integration by parts. So you need to set the u as ln y, then the du is dy over y, then our dv is dy, then your v is y. So by following the by parts formula, which is uv minus integral of b du, you will now have y over x squared equals y ln y minus y multiplied to dy over y plus c. Now continuing this equation, you will now have y over x squared equals y ln y minus cancel cy. You will now have the integral of dy plus c. So evaluating your equation, you will have y over x squared equals y ln y minus y plus c. So in that case, you need to simplify the equation by multiplying sa x squared. You will now have y, then the x squared of y ln y minus y plus c. Now this is to be considered as your general solution, but our target is to find the particular solution. So you need to substitute x is 1 when y is 1. So substituting the values of x and y dun sa general solution natin, you will notice that the value of c is 2. Then you will use the value of c dun sa general solution natin. You will now have y equals x squared, then multiply to y ln y minus y plus 2. Now this is to be considered your particular solution. Since this is your particular solution, your final answer for example number 5, or for our final example, you will have y equals x squared of y ln y minus y plus 2. So that's it for the Bernoulli's equation. So I hope you learned a lot and you see the difference between the linear equation and the Bernoulli's equation. If you have any questions, just comment down your questions and I'll try to answer it clearly. Or just message me on my messenger. So that's all. Thank you and God bless.